Hey everybody, this is Perch, and I'm seeing some takes really kind of picked up steam over the last 48 hours. I'd love to know kind of what kicks some of this stuff off. A lot of these kind of moments they're not new topics, they're not as we're about to talk about. But somebody says something, and then a bunch of people all start to go, "Yeah, yeah, me too," and then it snowballs from there. So the topic we're talking about are there's too many members of the Bat family. Now, this is a close cousin to a quite true topic. There's too many Batman titles. Although, in fairness, if DC can sell all those Batman books, then capitalism wins. Sell what you make it, and if it'll sell, then keep going. I guess until the well is dry. But this idea: are there too many members of the Bat family? Bat family being of course, all the Robins, the Alfred, the various kind of other hangers on. They've got a cow down there and a dog, and like, at what point has just the Bat circle of people gotten really, really large? Um, Absolutely. There's probably, so this is subjective, of course. I think, in my opinion, yes, there's too many members of the Bat family, but it's not surprising we got here because if you take a look at just DC in general and Marvel, but let's stick with DC for a moment. We'll get to Marvel. Um, who doesn't have too big of a family? If we go into Superman, you've got various, Connor, you have John, you have Supergirl, you have a flying horse, and you have Crypto, and you have Lois Lane. And you have Lois Lane's brother, and so the Superman family, they bring back Jor El, and that family is gotten quite large. Take a look at the Flash. How many Flash members do we have? I mean, we started bringing in a Wally West from an alternate universe just to bloat it up a little bit. If we look at Green Lantern, Jeff Thorne is in the process of murdering off a bunch of the Green Lanterns because there's too many. But even when he is done, there's still going to be what feels like thousands of Green Lanterns. You look at Wonder Woman. How many Wonder Woman women friends, girls do we have? We have Wonder Woman, of course. We also have Artemis. We have Donna Troy. We have now Yara Flor. We have Nubia. We have, at some point, we can go down the line of almost everyone within the DC universe and discover lots of hangers on. Green Arrow had Speedy, and we look at Aquaman has had now multiple Aqua Lads, and there's Mara, and there's just this is a quite old at this point temptation that comics get themselves into, which is, hey, it'd be cool. We'll add somebody to the supporting cast with a similar power set and kind of similar costume, and then we can bounce some stories off of them. And this then it balloons and blossoms to the point that every major character has too many members in it. And the funny thing is, once you get them in, they kind of become bulletproof. You can't kill many of them off. Even if you do, it then becomes one more kind of bit of IP that we want to resurrect at some point. So we're going to kill off Jason Todd, but don't worry, he'll be back, so we could get more money off this character. And I mean, if you look back at comics over the last 50 years, the let's expand the characters, family and everything else it's a constant temptation. And it's not just DC. You look at Marvel. How many Hulks do we have running around? How many Captain Americas do we have running around? How many Spider-Men do we have running around? How many Iron Men are we starting to breed and run around? It is almost every character down the line has this happen where you just start creating these legacy knockoffs, if you will, and before you know it, every comic character has a little clan that they can run around with, and it does get absurd if you start to look at it. I mean, it does set up the next Secret Wars you could have. Certainly would be all the Captain Marvels against all the Captain Americas versus all the Iron Men versus all of the Spider-Man, and you can have all the Hulks, and it's a lot. I think that part of what plays into this certainly is this temptation. Another common trope that actually feeds very nicely together with this is, let's do stuff in the multiverse. Hey, what if we had a Black Lightning over at DC, but we met a alternate reality Black Lightning that was more evil, or maybe more sarcastic, or maybe younger, or whatever it happens to be. There's this temptation always to dip into the multiverse, because the multiverse is like, let's write this character in a new and unfamiliar way from how people know it. And that's going to be exciting. And so go all in on that. And before you know it, these multiverse characters, they don't just show up for one story and go away. They get, pulled into the current universe because somebody's like, hey, I like the idea of a younger, more sarcastic Black Lightning. Let's bring him in. It'd be really cool. So if we had the Black Lightning we know have to team up with the younger, sarcastic version of himself, that would be a hell of a thing. And then before you know it, you've got another grouping of characters. This is comics. And so it is interesting to see people talk about. I mean, I think the root of this has to be that, hey, there are just way too many Batman titles in general, which, again, there are. Of course, they do sell, so what are you going to do? But if you just look at comics in general, overall, it is groupings of families of characters. And it's actually kind of telling that there hasn't been that much new in quite a long time in comics. There's not a lot of new IP, brand new characters being generated. Much of the IP today is where they're trying to leverage an existing character of some kind. It's like, hey, we want to make a character that's going to appeal to black males, or that's we want a black male character to be more diverse. All right, we can have this character kind of stand on their own with some powers, but we've tried that a few times. It doesn't really work. So let's make a Spider-Man out of it. And hey, we would like more girls into this. So let's resurrect a multiverse version of Gwen Stacy and throw a Spider-Man costume on her, and then we'll have Spider Gwen. And that's the challenge here is they're constantly wanting to leverage existing IP characters and images and designs that are familiar to you in order to bring these new characters up. The problem that I think I have with this is it is definitely harder work to let an original character, like Marvel had with Mosaic, harder work to make that character go. You have to market harder because there is no legacy version of Mosaic you can kind of fall back on. There is no, this is a character you once loved. Now they're all new and all different, huh? Come check this out. But it's worth it because when you put in the effort and the character goes over, like we did see with Deadpool, like we did see with Harley Quinn. Yes, Harley Quinn was kind of a female Joker, but not really. I heard somebody describe Harley Quinn as like, it's just a girl version of the Joker kind of knockoff. I mean, not. I think that's an inaccurate view, but for sure, whatever. The point is, when you put in effort into a new character and it works, you tend to have more stable brand power, and you have something that tends to last longer. When you just do a somewhat cheap knockoff of a current popular character, it may work for a while. I mean, I think Miles Morales has gotten over and has worked, but Miles has actually, for the last couple of years, they've continued to try and figure out ways to separate him out from Peter Parker, Spider-Man, Shadow. That's been a constant debate, whether it's a new costume or just new adventure. They're desperately trying to get this character to stand on their own and not be always lumped in with Peter. And this is, if you're using kind of knockoff legacy versions of characters, you're expanding the family, you always have that trap. So I think it's easier in the short term, but it's harder in the long term. And I think you actually take money out of your pocket by taking the easy route. Again, worked for Miles Morales, but there's a large list that it hasn't. Ironheart as a character has struggled to work. Miss Marvel, even though there was the Captain Marvel kind of tie-in, very, very lightly with the lightning bolt and everything else, and she liked Captain Marvel. Miss Marvel, originally in her initial incarnation, felt like a new character. It didn't feel tied to Captain Marvel. It didn't feel tied to Carol. And then later they would come in and kind of do more to push the two together to some extent. But it was the reason why that character, I think, saw early success is it was something new. It was something different. And they put the effort and the money into trying to make it run. And the more that they leaned back on the legacy, the actual worse results it got. So does the Bat family have too many members? Yeah, I think almost all of these characters do. I think the more you get them, the more they breed and populate, where you have these just, similar versions. I think it waters down the whole brand. And I think we've seen a little bit of that kind of throughout comics where, things just aren't as special anymore. When you've got so many members of the Flash family all running around, it makes it feel less important. And when you combine that with the fact that you never really can kill any of them, they're always going to come back or be resurrected in some fashion, or we're going to find a way to undo a death if a death happens. Then what is the point? It does start to get to be kind of a wash. So, yeah, interesting question. I'm still curious why now. Why now are people doing this? Because you've had this problem in comics for a very long time. This desire to just constantly spread. But what do you think? Does having lots of members of the extended family of a character bother you? Do you like it? Do you not like it? Who's done it better or worse in your opinion? Let me know in the comments below. Like and subscribe, of course. And thanks for listening.